Stay with me for a little while. Let the world soften its hands around you. Let the noise outside your chest become quiet. You do not have to explain why your heart still trembles when certain memories walk back into the room. You do not have to pretend you are stronger than you feel tonight. You can breathe here. You can listen without defending yourself. You can let words meet the place in you that has been waiting patiently, painfully, for someone to finally understand. Because I know there are goodbyes you never fully said, not because you were weak, not because you were foolish, not because you did not know how to move on, but because some people do not leave us all at once. Some loves do not end cleanly. Some promises keep echoing long after the room is empty. And maybe there was a part of you that kept standing there, somewhere inside yourself, holding the door open, hoping time would explain what love never did. I see that part of you. The part that learned how to smile while something sacred inside you was still kneeling on the floor. The part that became dependable because no one noticed how exhausted you were. The part that carried everything quietly, the family burdens, the emotional labor, the disappointments, the birthdays that felt too quiet, the nights when your bed felt less like rest and more like a place where old thoughts came to visit. And there is something I want you to hear. You were not too much because you loved deeply. You were not too sensitive because you remembered. You were not broken because goodbye felt impossible. You were human. You were devoted. You were someone whose heart did not know how to turn sacred things into ordinary things overnight. Have you ever wondered why you still ache? Not every day, maybe. Not always loudly, but in small ways. In the silence of the kitchen, when the light is low and you are standing there with your thoughts. In the mirror, when you catch your own eyes and feel for a second like you are looking at a woman who has survived more than anyone knows. In an old song that begins playing somewhere, and suddenly your heart remembers a version of you that still believed love would stay. And maybe you tell yourself, I should be past this. But should is often the language people use when they are tired of being tender. Healing is not a straight road. It is not a door you walk through once. Sometimes healing is sitting with the truth that you loved someone or something or a dream so completely that losing it changed the weather inside you. Wait with me, because I do not want to rush past the woman you were just to praise the woman you are becoming. She mattered too. The woman who waited, the woman who hoped, the woman who replayed conversations and searched for hidden meanings. The woman who wondered if she had asked too much when all she really wanted was consistency, presence, tenderness, and to be chosen without having to convince anyone of her worth. Have you ever felt too much and yet not enough? Too much emotion, too much longing, too much memory, and still somehow not enough to make someone stay the way they promised. That kind of pain does something to a woman. It makes her question her softness. It makes her negotiate with herself. It makes her wonder whether she should become colder, less available, less believing. It makes her afraid of opening again, because what if she gives the truest parts of herself and is still left holding the silence? I know. And I want to speak gently to the fear you may not admit out loud, the fear that you will not be chosen again, the fear that your best love has already happened, the fear that age has made you invisible in a world addicted to what is new, easy, untouched, uncome to me closely. There is a beauty in you that time did not take. It deepened it. There is a wisdom in you that no younger version of yourself could have carried. There is a tenderness that has been through fire and still refuses to become cruel. There is a kind of love inside you now that is not naive. It is not desperate. It is not begging at locked doors. It is quieter, richer, more discerning. It knows the difference between attention and devotion. It knows the difference between chemistry and safety. It knows that being desired is not the same as being cherished. And you, my dear, deserve to be cherished, not tolerated, not half loved, not remembered only when someone is lonely. Cherished, chosen in the daylight, held in the ordinary, protected in the fragile places, heard when your voice is soft, loved not only when you are easy, but when your heart is tired, when your faith is thin, when your smile has to travel a long distance to reach your face. Maybe you have spent years being sung strong because someone had to be. Maybe you became the chair everyone leaned on, the calm voice, the thoughtful one, the woman who understood, the woman who forgave, the woman who made room, who stayed graceful even when her heart was breaking in private. But who made room for you? Who noticed the fading perfume dream you stopped speaking about? Who sat beside the empty chair in your soul and said, I know who used to sit there? Who held your trembling heart without trying to fix it, silence it, or explain it away? That is why I am speaking to you like this. Because some pain does not need advice first. It needs witness. It needs a voice gentle enough to say, yes, I see it. Yes, it mattered. Yes, you were wounded there. You may have lost someone, or you may have lost a version of your life. Sometimes that hurts just as much. A ring can be more than a ring. A promise can become a whole imagined future. A goodbye can be more than goodbye. It can be the collapse of the life you were already building in your heart. And when that happens, people expect you to grieve the person. But they do not always understand that you are also grieving the mornings you never had, the conversations that never happened, the home your spirit had already decorated with hope, the older years you thought you might share, the hand you imagined reaching for when the world became too heavy. No wonder you could not say goodbye. You were not just releasing someone. You were releasing a future that had become part of your breathing. And still, somehow, you kept living. That is what humbles me about you. You kept waking up. You kept answering messages. You kept doing what needed to be done. You kept showing tenderness to others, even while your own heart had places no one touched. You kept your dignity in rooms where you wanted to fall apart. You learned to carry absence like an invisible necklace beneath your clothes. But I do not want you to confuse endurance with destiny. Just because you survived loneliness does not mean you were made to live there forever. There is still life coming toward you. There are still doors that know your name. There is still a love that will not require you to shrink, perform, chase, or prove. A love that will not be frightened by the depth of you. A love that will not call your tenderness a burden. A love that will understand that your heart is not complicated. It is layered. It is historical. It is sacred ground. And sacred ground should be entered with reverence. Do you feel that? Somewhere beneath the ache, beneath the disappointment, you still do not know where to place. There is a quieter truth rising. You are not finished. Your story did not end where someone do stay. Your worth did not expire when someone stopped recognizing it. Your tenderness did not become foolish because it was not returned correctly. You are still a woman with a soul full of music, even if some songs hurt, even if one old melody can still pull tears from a place you thought had healed. Let the tears come if they need to. They are not proof that you are going backward. Sometimes tears are the body's way of releasing what the mind has been carrying with clenched hands. And I will tell you something else. The goodbye you could not say may not have been avoidance. It may have been love trying to find a language large enough for loss. Some endings are too holy to be spoken quickly. Some farewells take years because the heart has to gather itself piece by piece. And maybe for a long time you thought goodbye meant betraying what was real. But it does not. Goodbye does not mean it was meaningless. Goodbye does not mean you did not love. Goodbye does not mean they were never important. Goodbye means you are finally allowed to stop bleeding for a story that no longer holds you with both hands. And maybe you are not ready to say it fully yet. That is okay. We will not force the heart. We will sit beside it. We will let it loosens slowly. We will let it remember without drowning. We will let it grieve with shame. We will let it become ready in its own sacred timing. Because you too deserve patience. You have given so much of it away. Tonight, let some return to you. Let yourself be the woman who is no longer punished for still feeling. Let yourself be the woman who can admit, yes, I loved, yes, I lost, yes, I still ache sometimes, but I am still here and I am still worthy of what is gentle, faithful, and true. There is something ahead of you that your wounded heart cannot fully imagine yet, not because it is impossible, because pain narrows the window, but life is wider than this ache. God, time, grace, destiny, whatever name your soul gives to the unseen hand, has not forgotten the address of your heart. There are things being arranged beyond what you can measure. There are moments that not arrived yet. There are people you have not met, conversations you have not had, mornings that will feel lighter than this one. And one day, perhaps quietly, perhaps it's without drama, you will realize that the love you thought you could not live without was not the last light. It was a light, but not the last. Stay with that. Let it breathe inside you. You are not alone. I'm right here. Your story is still being written. Stay with me now, not as someone who has to be brave, but as someone who is finally allowed to be honest. Now, let your shoulders drop a little. Let the room around you stop asking for explanations. You have spent so many years becoming the woman others could count on that you may have forgotten what it feels like to be quietly held by words without needing to earn tenderness. First, there is no performance here. There is no test. There is only this slow breath between us, and the truth that your heart has been carrying memories it never knew how to lay down. Maybe you thought silence would make them lighter. Maybe you believed time would wash them away. But some memories are not washed away. They are listened free, gently, patiently, with love. There was a season, perhaps more than one, when you kept returning to the same invisible doorway inside yourself, looking for the moment everything changed. You asked quiet questions no one heard. Was it something you missed? Was it something you gave too freely? Was your love too warm, too loyal, too ready to believe? And beneath those questions lived the one that hurt the most. Why was I not chosen the way I chose? That question can echo for years. It can sit beside you at breakfast, follow you into the mirror, wait for you in the unmade bed. It can make an ordinary evening feel like a courtroom where your own heart is both witness and accused. But I need you to know this. Being left uncertain was not proof you were unworthy. It may have only proved that someone else did not know how to stand before something real without retreating into confusion. Sometimes people leave not because love was small, but because intimacy asked more truth from them than they were prepared to give. And I know that does not erase the pain. I know explanations cannot warm the cold side of the bed. They cannot bring back the evenings when your phone stayed silent and your mind became a hallway of imagined conversations. But they can loosen one cruel belief that you were somehow lacking. You were not lacking. You were loving from a depth that frightened shallow hands. You were offering devotion to someone who may have wanted the glow of love, but not the responsibility of holding it when it became sacred for life. Do you ever wonder why the smallest things still open old rooms inside you? A scent passing in the street, a song you did not choose, the clink of a cup in the kitchen when the house is too still. The way evening light falls across an empty chair, and suddenly your chest remembers what your mouth has stopped saying. This is how the soul stores unfinished tenderness. It hides it in ordinary places, not to punish you, but because love once touched those places and gave them meaning. You are not weak for being moved by what others would overlook. You are perceptive. You are alive in places many people have numbed. Your ache is not an embarrassment. It is evidence that you once loved. World and sacred attention too. And still, there is a part of you that gets tired of being the keeper of every feeling. You are tired of remembering alone. Tired of being the one who understands everyone else while secretly wondering who will understand you. Tired of carrying invisible anniversaries, private disappointments, and all the words you swallowed because you did not want to seem needy. I see the woman who learned to lower her expectations so disappointment would not hit as hard. I see the woman who answered, "I am fine," while her inner world was sitting in the dark with its hands folded. I see the woman who made peace with less than she deserved, not because she lacked worth, but because hope had become expensive, and she was tired of paying for tenderness with her tears alone. Let me be careful here, because I do not want to romanticize what wounded you. Pain is not beautiful simply because you survived it. Loneliness is not holy simply because you endured it. But what became beautiful is the way your spirit kept a small lamp burning when everything in you wanted to go dark. That matters. The fact that you still believe in gentleness, even after being met with absence, matters. The fact that you still notice beauty, still soften at kindness, still feel your heart lean toward music, prayer, memory, and meaning matters. You may think those are small things, but they are not. They are signs that the deepest part of you was bruised, yes, but not destroyed. Something holy remained breathing beneath the rubble, waiting for morning to recognize it again. Have you noticed that life can move forward while one part of you stays seated in yesterday? You can learn new routines, meet new faces, laugh at the right moments, and still feel that something inside has not been properly realized. This is not failure. This is the nervous system protecting a tenderness that once felt unsafe to expose. Your heart kept saying, "Not yet, not yet, not yet," because the loss was too large to name in one breath. And maybe you judged yourself for that. Maybe you looked in the mirror and asked why you could not just close the door. But some doors are attached to rooms where you once imagined growing old. You do not slam those doors. You bless them slowly with trembling hands and a wiser mercy now within. I want you to forgive yourself for the goodbye that never fully left your mouth. Forgive the years you kept checking the emotional window, wondering whether something might return. Forgive the moments you confused longing with a sign, and the nights you mistook anxiety for intuition. You were trying to survive the ache with the tools you had. You were trying to keep love from becoming meaningless. You were trying to protect the part of you that had trusted so completely. And there was just no shame in that. But wait with me, because there is something deeper. You are allowed to remember without remaining bound. You are allowed to honor what was real without making it your prison. Memory can become an altar, but it must not become a cage around your living heart anymore. You may not believe it yet, but the place where love wounded, you can also become the place where wisdom begins speaking. Not bitter wisdom. Not the kind that says never again and builds walls so high even sunlight has to ask permission. I mean, the kind of wisdom that sits beside you tenderly and says, next time we will listen sooner. Next time we will not abandon ourselves to be chosen. Next time we will notice peace as carefully as passion. Next time we will believe consistency more than chemistry. This is not cynicism. This is your soul learning how to protect its softness without burying it. Because your softness was never the problem. The absence of reverence around your softness, the wound, and you deserve reverence now more than explanation or crumbs. So tonight, let the old ache sit down, not as ruler, but as guest. Let it speak, then let it rest. You do not have to evict every memory to be free. You only have to stop handing it the keys to your future. There is still a tomorrow shaped by mercy. There is still a hand somewhere in divine timing capable of holding yours without making you beg for warmth. There is still a version of you who wakes one morning and realizes her heart is no longer waiting at the same door. She is walking. She is breathing. She is becoming chosen by herself first, and that is where every truer love begins. You are not alone. I'm right here. Your story is still being written. Stay with me a little longer and let the guarded part of you soften without feeling ashamed for needing protection. You know? You have been so careful with your heart, almost too careful, because somewhere along the way, love taught you that openness could become a doorway for pain. So you learned to measure your words, hide your longing, smile before anyone could ask what hurt. You learned to place your sadness in quiet corners, like an old photograph turned face down on a table. But tonight, I am not asking you to perform peace. I am asking you to let the truth breathe. There is something I want you to hear before your heart tries to explain itself. You do not have to be untouchable to be safe. You do not have to harden every tender place just because someone once handled your softness carelessly. You can be open and protected. Maybe vulnerability has felt dangerous to you because the people who should have listened made you feel like a burden. Maybe when you finally spoke, Someone became distant, defensive, impatient, or cold, and your spirit quietly decided that silence was safer than honesty. That is how a woman begins disappearing from her own life. Not all at once. Slowly. She stops saying what she needs. She laughs when she wants to cry. She tells herself she is mature, understanding, easy to love, when what she really means is, I have learned not to ask for too much. Have you ever made yourself smaller just to keep someone near?
So-and-soism.
Have you ever swallowed the sentence that would have revealed your pain because you feared it might push them away? I want you to know that love requires your disappearance is not love. It is loneliness, wearing the fragrance of attachment and fear. You were not created to be a ghost in the room of your own relationship. You were not meant to sit across from someone smiling politely while your soul pressed its hands against the glass, begging to be noticed. A heart like yours was made for mutual presence, for conversation that does not punish honesty, for a love that can sit in the kitchen silence and still reach for you. Maybe you have known the ache of standing near someone and feeling miles away. Maybe you have lain in bed beside absence, whether a body was there or not, wondering how closeness could feel so cold. That kind of loneliness is sharp because it confuses the heart. It says, I have never felt more unseen. But being unseen by one person does not mean you are invisible. It means their sight was limited too. I know there are wounds you never confessed because you did not want anyone to look at you with pity. You did not want to sound broken. You did not want to become another story people mention softly and then forget. So you folded your grief into usefulness. You kept tending to life. You answered what needed answering, carried what needed carrying, remembered what others forgot. And maybe at night, when the house went quiet and your reflection appeared in a dark window, you saw the truth in your own eyes. You saw how tired you were of being the strong one. You saw how long you had been waiting for someone to ask the question beneath the question. Not what happened, but what did it do to you? What did it teach you to fear? What did it make you believe you had to become in order to survive? This is where surrender begins, not with giving up, but with telling the truth without decorating it. Maybe love made you afraid to need. Maybe disappointment made you suspicious of joy. Maybe goodbye, the one you could not say, became a room where your younger hope still sits, holding a ring, a promise, a memory, a future that never arrived. And maybe you have visited that room so often you forgot you are allowed to leave it without hating it. Surrender does not mean you deny what mattered. It means you stop demanding that the past become different before you allow yourself peace. It means you stop waiting for the person who hurt you to understand the size of the wound before you begin tending it yourself. It means whispering, I wanted more, I deserved more, and I am finally ready to come home to me with open arms again. Can you feel how frightening that is to return to yourself? So, after years of leaving little pieces of your spirit with people who did not know their value, you may discover anger there, not the cruel kind, but the honest kind that says, why did I accept so little? You may discover grief, the kind that curls quietly at the edge of the bed and admits, I missed myself. You may discover tenderness for the woman who stayed too long because hope kept telling her one more conversation might change everything. Do not shame her. She was faithful to the dream she believed in. And faithfulness is beautiful when it is finally redirected toward the soul that has been waiting for it. Let her cry. Let her speak. Let her forgive herself slowly. She was trying to love with the only truth she had back then. And now, perhaps, the exposure your heart fears most is not being seen by someone else, but being seen by yourself. To stand before your own inner mirror and say, yes, I was lonely. Yes, I felt rejected. Yes, I loved harder than I was loved. Yes, I feared that time had passed me by. Yes, I wondered whether anyone would ever look at me and choose the whole of me, not just the agreeable parts. That honesty may tremble in your chest, but it will not destroy you. It will set you free from the exhausting ministry of pretending. You do not have to be endlessly composed. You do not have to be the woman who understands everything while receiving nothing. Your depth is not an inconvenience. Your need for reassurance is not childish. Your longing to be held with devotion is human and worthy of sacred care too. Wait with me here, because this is the moment where the wound stops being a verdict and becomes a doorway. What you have been through did not make you less desirable, less feminine, less radiant, or less capable of being loved. It made you more awake to what your soul cannot live without. Emotional safety. You need truth spoken plainly, not affection wrapped in confusion. You need a love that does not make you beg for clarity. And there is nothing excess about that. The right person will not experience your heart as a burden to manage, but as a garden to enter carefully. The right love will not make you compete with silence. It will bring peace to the places where uncertainty once slept. It will not erase your past, but it will help your nervous system slowly believe nervous again in tenderness without fear. So if your heart is trembling tonight, let it tremble. It is not weakness, it is thawing, it is the old ice around your hope beginning to loosen. You are not behind, you are not ruined, you are not too late for tenderness, companionship, laughter in quiet rooms, warm hands, honest eyes, or the kind of love that feels like prayer after years of noise. Something in you is learning to stop clinging to what could not hold you. Something in you is becoming brave enough to be available to life again, not recklessly, not desperately, but sacredly. There is still a future unfolding beyond this ache, and your name is written somewhere inside its mercy. You are not alone. I'm right here. Your story is still being written, even in the places you thought were endings, and love can still find you. Stay with me now, because something in you is beginning to understand that the wound was not the end of your story, even if it once felt like the final sentence. Let your breath settle into that possibility. You do not have to rush toward hope as if hope is another task to complete. Hope can come quietly. It can enter like morning light across a kitchen floor, not loud, not demanding, simply revealing that the room was never as empty as the night made it seem. I know you have lived through seasons when meaning felt cruel, when people told you everything happens for a reason, and you wanted to turn away because reason did not hold you when you cried. I will not offer you a small phrase for a large pain. I will only sit close enough to say that what hurt you does not get to define the whole of you. For a long time, perhaps, you searched the past like a house after a storm, lifting every broken piece and asking where the damage truly began. You replayed the tone in their voice, the missed calls, the distance you felt before anyone admitted distance existed. You wondered whether your intuition failed you or whether you ignored it because love made you merciful. But listen gently. You did not fail because you hoped. Hope is not stupidity. Hope is the heart trying to remain connected to life. The mistake was never that you believed. The wound was that belief was placed in hands that did not know how to honor it. And now the breakthrough is not learning to distrust love. The breakthrough is learning to distinguish love from longing, promise from pattern, apology from change, and intensity from devotion. There is a grief that comes when you realize someone may have loved you in the only way they could, yet still not in the way you needed. That truth is complicated, and I will not make it simple. It can be true that they mattered and true that they were not enough. It can be true that your heart was sincere and true that sincerity alone could not save what was uneven. It can be true that you still carry tenderness and true that you are allowed to stop carrying the weighting. Do you feel that small opening inside those words? You do not have to turn the past into a villain to release it. You do not hate what disappointed you. You only have to stop confusing its unfinished ache with your unfinished destiny. Maybe this is where your spirit begins to exhale, because for years you thought healing meant losing the tenderness that proved it was real. You feared that if you stopped aching, you would betray the love you gave. You feared that peace would mean indifference, and indifference would mean it had all been nothing. But peace is not betrayal. Peace is the soul finally resting after carrying a memory farther than it was meant to be carried. Peace is the moment the trembling heart realizes it can bless what once was, mourn what never became, and still turn toward the life waiting the edge of tomorrow. The love you gave remains part of your beauty. The pain it caused no longer has to be the price you pay for having loved. Think of the mirror again, the one that has seen you on ordinary mornings when no one knew the weight you were waking beneath. That mirror has watched you gather yourself again and again. It has seen your face after hard conversations, after lonely nights, after moments when you wanted reassurance and received silence instead. And still, you returned, you washed your hands, you fixed what needed fixing. You kept showing up for life, even when life did not feel gentle with you. There is meaning there, not in the sufferings itself, but in the undefeated part of you that kept responding. Your endurance was not merely survival. It was evidence that some deeper current was moving through you, a grace beneath your exhaustion, a quiet promise saying, Aang, you are not done becoming. And perhaps the greatest reframe is this: you were not abandoned by love itself. You were being redirected from a version of love that asked you to abandon yourself. That is a painful mercy, I know. Mercy does not always feel soft when it first arrives. Sometimes it comes as a closed door, a broken plan, a goodbye. The mouth cannot say, but the soul begins living anyway. Sometimes mercy looks like emptiness because it is making room before you understand what room is being made for. Have you ever considered that what did not stay may have protected the woman you are still becoming? Not because a loss was easy, not because pain was deserved, but because a half-love could never have held the fullness that is rising in you now. I want you to place one hand, even if only in your imagination, over the place in your chest that still tightens when memory returns. Do not scold it. Do not demand that it be healed by mourning. Just let it know you are listening now. Tell it quietly. We are not chasing ghosts anymore. We are not begging locked doors to become homes. We are not measuring our worth by the absence of someone who did not know how to remain. This is not a harsh declaration. It is a sacred turning. It is the moment a woman stops living as though love is behind her and begins to feel the first shy possibility that love may still be ahead. Walking slowly, learning her name, finding its way toward her. There is something I want you, Tels, to hear with the part of you that doubts good things can after so much waiting. Delay is not denial. Silence is not always absence. Sometimes the unseen future is not refusing you. It is forming you, clearing you, teaching you the sound of your own yes and your own no. You are becoming harder to fool and easier to truly love because you are no longer willing to confuse emotional hunger with destiny. You are learning that being chosen by someone else is beautiful, but being unable to choose yourself is dangerous. And now you are returning to yourself with a patience that feels almost holy, like lighting a candle in a room you once thought could only remain dark. Do not underestimate the holiness of that candle. It may look small to the world, but to the woman who has lived through emotional winter, even a small flame can feel like resurrection. Maybe your breakthrough will not arrive as thunder. Maybe it will come as one quiet evening when an old song plays and you notice the memory still moves you, but it no longer owns you. Maybe it will come when you pass the empty chair and feel tenderness instead of collapse. Maybe it will come when you smell a fading perfume and realize the ache has become soft, almost distant, like rain remembered from another season. That is how healing often announces itself, not by erasing the past, but by changing the way your body belongs to the present. So wait with me in this understanding. You are not the woman who was rejected. You are the woman who was refined by truth. You are not the woman love forgot. You are the woman love is teaching to receive without blindness, to open without self-abandonment. The meaning is not that you had to hurt. The meaning is that even hurt could not make you abandon the sacredness within you. And somewhere ahead, there is a life that will make use of every lesson without requiring you to keep bleeding for it. Let this be the night you stop asking the wound to explain your worth. You are not alone. I'm right here. Your story is still being written. Stay with me now, and let this be the place where you stop apologizing for the size of your heart. Let your breathing become slower, gentler, less afraid of what rises when the room grows quiet. You have spent so much of your life making yourself understandable to people who never learned how to listen deeply. You have explained feelings so carefully, softened your disappointments, translated your needs into smaller sentences, and still there were moments when you were met with distance. But there is something I want you to hear tonight with a steadier part of yourself. Your worth was never waiting for someone else to recognize it before it became real. It was always there, even when love failed to mirror it back to you. There is a woman inside you who has been standing for a long time at the edge of her own becoming. She has been tired, yes, and sometimes afraid, but she has not been defeated. She has been gathering small pieces of herself from old conversations, empty chairs, quiet beds, and mirrors that knew too much. She has been reclaiming the tenderness she once handed without protection. Maybe you did not notice it happening because healing rarely announces itself loudly. It happens when you pause before ants a message that once would have made you abandon your peace. It happens when you feel an old ache and do not run toward the person who caused it. It happens when you finally understand that longing is not an instruction to return. Have you ever wondered who you might become if you stopped building your identity around what hurt you? Not by denying it, not by pretending it never mattered, but by refusing to let the wound introduce you everywhere you go. You are more than the goodbye you could not say. You are more than the promise that became silence. You are more than the years you spent waiting for emotional certainty from someone who lived behind a locked door. There is laughter in you that has not been heard enough. There is wisdom in you that deserves to be trusted. There is a softness in you that does not need to be buried in order to be safe. You are not a story of loss only. You are a living return. Maybe the world tried to convince you that time makes a woman less visible, less wanted, less chosen. But I need you to reject that lie, not with anger, but with sacred certainty. Age has not erased you. It has revealed you. It has removed illusions, sharpened your discernment, and taught your compassion the cost of spirit of giving yourself to what cannot give back. There is a beauty in becoming a woman who no longer chases rooms that cannot hold her. There is power in knowing that you do not need to compete for attention where your presence should already feel like a blessing. The right soul will not be confused. Depth. The right soul will recognize it as home. And before that soul arrives, before any future love places its hand gently over the places life has made tender, you must come back to yourself fully. Not halfway, not only on the days when you feel beautiful, needed, useful, or strong. You must come back to the woman who cries unexpectedly. The woman who still misses what she knows she cannot return to. The woman, sometimes it is simply choosing not to betray your own knowing. It is resting instead of proving. It is saying no without writing a long apology afterward. It is letting a memory pass through you like an old song playing from another room without following it all the way back into grief. It is wearing your own life again, not as something borrowed, but as something that belongs to you. And yes, there may still be nights when the ache returns. Let it come. Let it speak. But do not mistake its voice for prophecy. Pain can tell you what happened. It cannot tell you what is still possible. Wait with me, because there is a quiet power beginning to rise in you. It is not the hard power that closes the heart and calls itself strength. It is the deeper power of a woman who knows she can feel deeply and still choose wisely. You are learning that devotion must include yourself. You are learning that love should not require constant translation. You are learning that peace is not boring. It is the body finally realizing it does not have to brace for abandonment. Imagine that. A love that feels calm, not because it lacks passion, but because it does not make your nervous system beg for safety. A love that does not turn your tenderness into labor. A love that knows how to stay, but even if that love has not yet entered the room, you are not incomplete. That is one of the holiest truths you can begin to carry. You are not half a woman waiting for another person to make you whole. You are already whole, though some parts of you are still healing. You are already worthy, though some moments still make you forget. You are already chosen by life. Each morning, else, you open your eyes and continue. The future love meant for you will not create your worth. It will witness it. It will not rescue you from being unloved. It will meet the love you have finally learned to give yourself. That is why this season matters so deeply. There may be things you need to release now, not because they were meaningless, but because they have finished teaching you. Release the need to be understood by those who benefited from misunderstanding you. Release the old habit of shrinking your truth so someone else can remain comfortable. Release the belief that being easy to love means having no needs. Release the fear that your depth will scare everyone away. It will scare away the wrong ones, perhaps, but that is not loss. That is protection. The people meant for the woman you are becoming will not require you to become smaller at the doorway. They will have room. They will have reverence. They will not ask your soul to whisper when it was born to sing. And when you feel doubtful, return to the ordinary evidence of your own resilience. The cup in your hands on a quiet morning. The mirror that now meets a woman learning to look back with compassion. The bed that once held grief, but may one day hold peaceful sleep again. The empty chair that is not emptiness forever, but space. Space for truth, space for renewal, space for the love that will come in alignment, not chaos. Space for God, grace, destiny, and the unseen tenderness arranging what you cannot yet imagine. There is nothing wasted about you. Even the years that seemed heavy have been shaping a woman with an extraordinary capacity to recognize what is real. So let your heart rise, not quickly, but faithfully. Let it rise from the old rooms where it waited too long. Let it rise from the ache of not being chosen. Let it rise from the belief that your tenderness was a weakness. You are becoming someone who can hold memory without living inside it. Someone who can desire love without begging for it. Someone who can be open without being unguarded. That is a rare kind of beauty. That is a sacred kind of strength. You are not alone. I'm right here. Your story is still being written, and this time you are not merely surviving the pages. You are returning to the pen. Stay with me for these last quiet moments. And let the word last feel gentle, not frightening. Nothing is being taken from you here. Something is being placed back into your hands. Your breath, your worth, your own future, your own name. You have walked with me through rooms inside yourself that many people never enter honestly. You have stood near the kitchen silence, the mirror reflection, the quiet bed, the empty chair, the fading perfume of what once felt permanent. And now I want you to feel something different moving beneath the ache. Not denial, not forgetting. Something steadier, a soft arrival. A knowing that says, I can love what was, grieve what ended, and still belong completely to the life opening before me now, with courage. Sacred between waiting for the past and being prepared by it. For so long, maybe you believed your heart was waiting because it was loyal. You thought if you stopped looking back, some part of the love would vanish, as if memory needed your pain in order to survive. But love that was real does not require your suffering as proof. Was true can remain true without keeping you bound. You can release the ache and still honor the beauty. You can stop standing at the old doorway and still admit that once you hoped someone would come through it. This is maturity of the soul. This is tenderness, becoming wise. This is the ring inside your spirit, becoming less about loss and more about promise. Do you ever wonder what it will feel like when peace no longer seems suspicious? When calm does not make you search for what might go wrong, when someone's kindness does not awaken fear, but allows your nervous system to rest. I want you to imagine that gently. Not as fantasy, not as a desperate escape, but as a future your heart is allowed to consider. A morning where the light enters softly and you do not feel haunted. A kitchen where silence feels warm instead of abandoned. A bed where your thoughts no longer gather like storms. An empty chair that no longer accuses life of what it took, but welcomes what may still arrive. You are allowed to expect tenderness again. You are allowed to receive without flinching. The woman you are becoming will not be careless with herself. She will not confuse pursuit with devotion or intensity with safety. She will know that love is not proven by how much anxiety she can endure. She will listen when her body feels tense, when her spirit feels crowded, when peace begins to leave the room. She will not call abandonment chemistry. She will not call inconsistency mystery. She will not turn crumbs to a feast just because she remembers hunger. This remembers hunger. This woman is not cold. She is clear. She is not closed. She is consecrated by everything she survived. She can still love deeply, perhaps more deeply than ever, because now her love includes herself. And love that includes the self becomes rooted, discerning, radiant, and free. There is someone, somewhere, or something, some divine alignment, some mercy, some new rhythm of life that will meet you differently than the past did. I cannot tell you the date, and I will not decorate hope with false certainty. But I can tell you this: your future is not empty just because you cannot see who is walking toward it. The unseen does not mean the absent. Seeds sleep before they rise. Prayers travel quietly before they answer. The heart heals in hidden ways before it suddenly realizes it is ready. You may be closer than you think to a life that feels softer, truer, more spacious. Not perfect, no, but honest. Not effortless, but mutual. Not a dream you beg for, but a blessing you can recognize. And when that blessing comes, whether as love, peace, purpose, friendship, renewal, or the simple retreat from it, because pain taught you to expect disappointment. Let yourself be surprised by goodness. Let yourself be touched by ordinary grace. Let the old song play, and this time, let it become music instead of a wound. Let the fading perfume become a memory, not a command. Let the mirror show who has not lost her radiance, only stopped giving it away where it could not be cherished. You are not asking for too much when you ask for loyalty, gentleness, presence, and truth. You are asking for the emotional climate where your spirit can finally bloom again. Wait with me, because the deepest union does not begin when someone else arrives. It begins when you stop living divided against yourself. When the part of you that waited, the part that grieved, the part that doubted, and the part that still believes are no longer fighting in the dark, they gather around one inner table. They look at each other with compassion. They understand that each was trying to protect you. And then, slowly, the woman at the center of it, all rises. She does not rise untouched. She rises with scars that no longer beg to be hidden. She rises with a trembling heart that has learned it can tremble and still trust. This is your inner homecoming, and it is beautiful. Maybe goodbye was never a single sentence for you. Maybe it was a long pilgrimage through denial, devotion, anger, tenderness, memory, and finally, mercy. Maybe you could not say goodbye because some part of you needed first to understand that goodbye does not close love. It closes suffering. It does not erase meaning. It releases possession. It does not make you less faithful. It makes you faithful to your own becoming. So now, if the words still tremble, let them tremble. You do not have to shout them. You can whisper them inside your heart. I loved. I lost. I learned. I release. I remain. And somewhere in the unseen, that whisper becomes a door opening. Not back into what broke you, but forward into what can hold you. I want you to carry this truth into every quiet room after this. You are not invisible. You may have gone unseen by eyes that should have known better. But heaven did not lose sight of you. Life did not misplace you. Your tenderness was recorded in ways no one applauded. But grace remembers what people overlook. Every time you kept loving without becoming cruel. Every time you chose dignity over bitterness. Every time you rose from a night that felt endless, something in you was being strengthened. You are rare, not because you never fell apart, but because you kept returning to love with more wisdom. You are deep, not difficult. You are sensitive. You are sensitive, not weak. You are ready, not ruined. You are worthy, not waiting for permission. So breathe now, my dear. Let the old ache loosen its final grip. Let the chair be open. Let the bed be peaceful. Let the kitchen silence become holy. Let the mirror become a witness not to what you lost, but to who has returned. You are still here. You are still capable of joy. You are still worthy of being chosen with both hands and a whole heart. And until that visible love stands before you, let this unseen love hold you steady. Let God, grace, destiny, and your own brave soul walk beside you. Nothing sacred in you has been wasted. The goodbye you could not say has become the beginning you did not know you were allowed to receive. You are not alone. I'm right here. Your story is still being written.